around me. Yeah, we feel that you're the MC. You can say this little part right here, do this, say that right there. And I was like, man, I was like, I was just kind of shaking my head and, just looking, and I was just, I kind of just blanked out, and I was just looking into space, and I was just like, yeah, this is a career pivotal time in my life right now, and I had to make a decision. You know what I'm saying? I tried to go through with it, and I was like, I was like, it's Quincy. I mean, I should do it, but I've been 5 years in the game of rhyming and being about a certain style of hip hop and culture and just being more cultural based. And I'm like, if I do this, it would negate everything that I've done for the last 5 years, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, and I got up and I said, when he left the room, and I was like, look, she was like, I said, well, wait a minute, am I not writing my own lyrics in it? She's like, no, of course not. Da-da-da-da. And I'm like, well, I can't do this. I walked, I was like, I can't do this, so everybody's like, oh, I can't believe you're turning down Quincy, Quincy walks back in, he's like, is there a problem? Is there a problem? Like, no, brother, ain't no problem, I said, look, I just want to say, I'm trying to save face. I'm like, I just want to say that, I really appreciate everything you've done for, black music, blah, 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 and this and that. But look, I said, I represent true hip hop and real hip hop culture. I can't do this. I was like, if I did this, it would just kill everything that I'm about, and I just can't do it. And I said, respect, I hope if I see you in the future, everything is love and blah, blah, blah. But, I walked out. And I walked out and I just stood in the mall and I just couldn't move for like 15 minutes. I stood there. And I knew at that point that I had made my decision of what my life and my path was going to be. And I think to me that's one of the stories I can take away from my involvement in hip hop, in this culture, and just what my contributions are and what I can't, what I will and won't be a part of. And that's one of the reasons why I became an engineer, because I'm like, I want to make money. I want to, regardless of, I don't want to have to, I know that I'm in a path, like Dr. Ball said, I'm in an area of this music or style of this music that's not going to get the exposure. It's not going to get the exposure of a 50. The closest, really that we have right now is Common. Common and Roots and, there's a slip through the cracks now, but even with that, there's sacrifice, but it's just kind of one of those things that I say, okay, well, I had to take a different path as far as becoming an audio engineer, and I love it. I love being an engineer, and I can make music, and I can always make music and not be stressed out about it and not have to rely on it, because I don't know if Mary Baraka might have said this when we start relying on our art for money. And that's when it no longer, becomes art. And it's no longer art a lot of times. And we're concerned about who's going to rock to this or who's going to play this at the club and who's going to do this or who's going to do that. I can just make music and not stress. And it's so funny because I make music now and put it up on my MySpace page, and I get more love than when I was actually trying to really push it, really hard. So it's really interesting, but that's just me.
Actually, it's artists making the decisions consciously that Priest is just talking about that have inspired me to do the stuff that I try to do. I know a lot of people have been looking at me crazy for the last, I think, 3+ years that we hand out these free mixtapes and call it radio. But the reason we're doing it is because I'm trying to get people heard who aren't going to get on the radio, who my students never hear about, who, our elders don't even seem to know about, and many of whom have made a conscious decision to say, I know I'm going to have to forego the most wealth and fame by making certain political choices with my music and my art. And I've noted that there are parallels, of course, in all aspects of life. I'm mostly in academia now, and the same thing has been happening there since day one. So Greg Carr, who is one of my favorite, most inspirational professors at Howard University, who, although I can't ever seem to get him on my show, needs to have a mic in front of him all the time. I know he's busy. I'm just saying. I'm selfish. I want him on my show. No, I mean, he made the point, and I run this audio all the time. I recorded the last IAHHE Conference he did, Association for the Study of Classical African Civilization. And he made the point, he started, and it brought him to tears to name some of the people who were in the room, Theophile Obenga, and oh, now I'm going blank. And at the time, before he passed, Asa Hilliard, and of course, the late John Henrik Clark and Jake Carruthers. And he was saying, if you even mention these people's names in your bibliography, you have just committed career suicide. And it's not, or Diop especially, if you have, it's not even that it's not that and it's because they can't be proven wrong on an academic standard that they do this, that by just simply mentioning them, you have committed suicide in your own personal career, because you are attaching yourself to a way of study, a way of thinking about the world that will make people change. And that is, of course, not what institutions are created for. You create institutions to make people into what you need them to be. So the same thing with music. When I grew up in a what would be considered a very different and radical household, but it was really hip hop that did it. I mean, it was hearing all the. I mean, I say this just to remind myself, but when I tell people, or particularly students or people who don't know, we used to see videos of people snatching gold ropes off of people and putting African medallions on them, and we used to see X-Clan, on TV. I mean, it's like, I can't even, think about it. And of course it was going to have an impact. And even music that at the time even made me uncomfortable. And to be honest, when I first heard Public Enemy as a young kid, I was uncomfortable. I was like, damn, that's some angry, these cats are angry. I'm a little uncomfortable. And then as I started asking myself, but why are you uncomfortable? What is making you uncomfortable? And what it really became clear that was making me uncomfortable was that I like the music. And what was making me most uncomfortable was that they are right. And by their correctness of their analysis, it's making me need to change and make different decisions. So it led me to even more recently, and I only say this publicly because we had a very public exchange, was that